All right. A new week. Oh, boy. About that noise, nothing we can do about it. The heater is on, and then we don't need it. It's warm here, right? Yeah. So the noise on that. Okay. All right. You're cold, man? No, it's good in there. You're cold, huh? Under the weather. It's warm in here. You're under the weather. The whole week is Agadat. I know why it's Agadat, because it's the Mishnah, no? Yeah, but I'm saying the Mishnah is not the Peah. We finished with Peah. I don't think Masechtas Peah, well, there's Agadat for a reason. Okay. All right, Shuki's here. We're ready to go. Ready to go. Here we go. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yerushalmi Peah, Perek Aleph, Halacha Aleph, on top of Daf Hey. We are in middle of learning Hidur Mitzvah. We got into Hidur Mitzvah Behemshech, that when the Gemara said that there is a limit, there is an upper limit to Gemilas Chasadim B'Mamoinoi, and Lahoin, as we'll have Oisius, that we have Gemilas Chasadim B'Gufoi, and we have. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said there's also something called Gemilas Chasadim B'Nafshoi. Gemilas Chasadim B'Nafshoi would be taking a Yid and sending a tzaddik, sending him on shlichus to a place where there is nothing yet going on in Yiddishkeit, which would mean that he's not going to daven with a minyan until he manages to put it together. That is a Gemilas Chesed B'Nafshoi. But we are learning about Begufay B'Mamoinoi. Begufay, there is no limit, no under limit, no upper limit. And B'Mamoinoi, that's how we got in there. Be'usha Yiskinu. And the Gemara from there went on to say other limits by mitzvahs, the Achlish, and one of the interpretations of the Achlish, as we learned in the previous year, is Hidur Mitzvah Achlish. So we're going to speak a little bit more about Hidur Mitzvah. We're going to go back to the enactment that they made in Usha. We will actually have an understanding in our Gemara Yerushalmi, and that will answer a question that we asked. I'll repeat the question and I'll give the answer when we learn the Gemara inside, that even though Be'usha Hiskinu, it didn't begin over there. And perhaps Hashem gave that limit. And we forgot it. And that will happen today. So give that there were certain things that Hashem told Moshe in Sinai that they were concealed from us for a while. And because of the Siyata Deshmaya, and because of the Yigia Batoira, the Chachamim at some point, they got back that which we always knew, which is quite amazing. And that will be a big sugi about the merit of Yigia Batoira. We're going to learn, going back to tzedakah, the merit and the protection we acquire by giving money tzedakah. The Chazal, that tzedakah ugmilas chasadim shkula keneget kol mitzvah shel Torah, either tzedakah or gemilas chasadim. Tzedakah in this context means money tzedakah. Gemilas chasadim means lending money, or doing kindness. Begufay, as we learned, bikachaylam, achnas askala, halvay sames, etc. We're going to go back to the fifth item The fifth one is Talmud Torah. So there's going to be a discussion in our Gemara about the extent of the obligation to study Torah. And God willing, we'll still have time today on Daf Hey Amid Beis to go on to the next section of the Mishnah. But the keren kayemes la'olam haba. People know this by heart. Just to repeat, that what we say by heart is a Mishnah and a Braisa. That's why our Mishnah, just Mishnah, was much shorter. There are many add-ons that we dafka add after Birchas HaTorah, but the first one that we mentioned, Sayin the Mishnah, Sayin what we have in the Siddur, is Kibbud Avayim. So we're going to start the topic of Kibbud Avayim. We're going to have the Gemara Yerushalmi's version of the story of Dama ben Esina. We're not going to have the time yet of the Paraduma. We'll leave that, God willing, for tomorrow, but like a pre-story story, the Gemara is going to relate many Ad Hechen, Kibbud Avayim, and we're going to speak a lot about the greatness of Dama ben Esina, the way he honored, the way he fulfilled the mitzvah of Kibbud Avayim, and a lot more. Without any further ado, Daf Hey Amid Aleph, all the way on top of the Amid. Gemara is going to quote now a Braisa, Machloikes Tanoim, perhaps a Machloikes Tanoim, Benegeya, the concept of Hidur Mitzvah, beginning with what's the source that you have to be Bahadur in the mitzvahs. So Tani Rabbi Yishmael, when we say every day in the Shiras Hayom, Torah Parshas B'Shalach, that we said Zeh Keli, a lot in Chassidus about the Zeh Marabetz Boy, that there was a real Gili Elikus. But then we said not only this is my God, it was a personal. We related to God, the Anveyu, and I will beautify him. And the words "I will beautify him" has to be understood because is it possible for a person to beautify his creator? Elot says Rabbi Yishmael. I will beautify myself. How do I become more beautiful? Through the performance of mitzvahs. Look inside the top charedim. The Pnei Moshe. I'm sorry, not charedim. Slicha. The Pnei Moshe. There's no charedim here. The Anveyu v'chiyef shelo adam l'navis l'yapis is boiroi. That's the kasha. And the answer is Ela enova atzmi. You see, don't say I'll beautify the mitzvahs. That's a wrong taich. I will beautify myself in front of God. How? By performing the mitzvahs in a beautiful way. And what I think what's extremely important, speak out a topic. There's a sikh on this. There's a babli. We don't have enough time for all of it. The nekuda is hidur mitzvah a din on the gavra or is it a din on the chetza? That's the nigla topic. In other words, is it that I want to, like mamish, what the words of the Pnei Moshe, I want to beautify myself, or I want to express my love to God. How do I do it? By being mahadir b'mitzvahs? Or does the mitzvah itself have to become more beautiful? Is it a din in the mitzvah? Lamay nafkemina. That's a sikha, not in the Bavli. When people, for example, when they add the silver kesed on their talus, when a person makes a beautiful mezuzah case, the mitzvah is the parchment. The mitzvah is the talus and the tzitzis. What you're doing is you're not making the mitzvah itself more beautiful. Is that hidur mitzvah? So that's exactly what the Pnei Moshe is trying to allude to, that his understanding of Rabbi Yishmael is that it's a din on the gavra. Make yourself beautiful. In other words, I don't need for the hidur mitzvah isn't only that I'm buying a more expensive parchment. That for sure is hidur mitzvah. You only spend at shlish, the way we learned at the end of last year. No. Even if what I'm beautifying is an extension of the mitzvah, it's not the mitzvah proper. A mezuzah case, the esrog box cover. Remember, people used to come to show with those silver boxes. That's what his whole point. Yes, that's va'anveyu, according to Rabbi Yishmael. Or, for example, eselafon of lulav noah, sukkah noah, shoifer noah, tzitzis noah, tefillah noah. Abishol says, Adam Eloi, that anveyu, not miloshin, beautiful. Anveyu is miloshin anivahu. And anivahu means that I will become similar to the Eibishter. And as the Pnei Moshe connects Abishol's understanding of the anveyu to him, anivahu. which is one of the Shemus HaKadoshim of the Eibishter, really. Adamaloi, meaning, mahu chanun verachum, af atehi chanun verachum. Now, I want you to know that there's a whole discussion. There's a question amongst Achreinim whether Abba Shaul is arguing with Rabbi Yishmael. It's very important. Or whether this is another way of being mahader b'mitzvahs. Because let's take Abba Shaul and let's build on it. Let's go to our Gavra and Chefza. If Hidur mitzvah isn't only that the mitzvah should be more beautiful, but it's that when I fulfill the mitzvah, I beautify myself when I perform the mitzvah by making it more beautiful, but it doesn't have to be related to the mitzvah. But if it's on me, think about it. When do I look more beautiful? Let's use the words of the Alter Rebbe. When my levushim are more beautiful, or when I become more beautiful? So the mitzvah is levushim, but midos is me. In other words, you want to look beautiful. Taka means beautiful. You want to look beautiful. What do you think? Putting on a nice garment will make you look beautiful? Maybe. Ask your wife what's considered. I have to become more beautiful. Oh, Botox. Oh. In other words, I have to be Rachum. I have to be Chanun. Much harder. It's much harder for me to become more beautiful. Okay. The kids said that's the source of Hidur Mitzvah. And on that, that was the whole hemshah. Just to repeat, that Hidur Mitzvah Achshalish. Is there a limit? There is a limit. There is a limit. I want to have a more beautiful lulav. Let's speak about the mitzvah itself. Fine. So if the lulav costs $100 and I have a lulav that costs a shlish more, the shlish l'chayda means 130 or it means 150. I don't know, like when we have by the chaimish. Milagav milabad, I don't know. So then the vart is, yeah, but what happens if I have an option of 100 or 200? So then achlish. And l'chu'ura, why achlish? Why not all the way? L'chu'ura, same concept. Because don't fulfill the mitzvahs in a way that you're going to become a needy person financially. There is a limit. As much as people think there's no limit, normally the way it works is that the spender thinks there's no limit. And the guy that's earning the money is saying there's a limit. I'm sorry, guys. All right. Everyone is having a smile it's a painful smile. Let's go back. Now, this is really going back to the enactment of Usha. A guy was giving away everything he owned to Aniyim. That the Haloyamru didn't the sages say, or don't we have a tradition that Chaimish Menachasav mitzvahs? So, in other words, he reprimanded. Now the Gemara is interrupting this whole brayse, the Tanoim, and the interruption is, hold on, the whole thing doesn't make sense. I want historically, guys, we learned this together a few times in the Babli, just to know what happened. After the Churban Abaye Shmuli, the Sanhedrin moved to Yavne. That's the whole Gemara Gittin. Tenli Yavne v'chachomel. But I want you to know that who was the head of the Sanhedrin? Rabban Gamliel. While Rabban Gamliel was there, you should know they moved to Usha. They were there, Usha, round number 1. B'yichayev of Rabban Gamliel, they moved back to Yavna. After Rabban Gamliel passed away, when Shimon ben Gamliel became the Nasi of the Sanhedrin, they moved back to Usha. And it's taken for granted that when we learned in the last year, when we learned in the Babli, that Bu'usha hiskinu, whether the words are in the Babli, al yevazveis yoiser mechaimish, or whether we have the words of the Yerushalmi, give a chaimish, which implies not more, but give a chaimish. It happened the second time we were in Usha. In other words, it happened b'chayev of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. So the Gemara is asking. So in other words, at Khan we are learning it was at Takon of the Sanhedrin. It happened only the second time we were in Usha. So how did Rabban Gamliel even know to tell him this statement? Answers the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef Rabbun b'shem Rabbi Levi. It's not the way you think. It wasn't made up for the first time in Usha, the second time. Guys, perhaps the word halacha means halacha l'Moshe Sinai, which will answer the question that I'll speak out again. Perhaps. We always had that. Narvos then, we forgot it. It's not the only thing we forgot. Specifically, after Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, guys, this we learned in Chitas, that 3,000 halachas were forgotten. The Amdu Hashniyim, the Chachamim that came later, and vehiskimu al das harishonim, and they intuited what we always already knew. And and I want to speak up. What was the kasha when we learned the Gemara Bagamach? We learned Begufay. So we asked the kasha, why did the Gemara have to insist that the Gamach of our Mishnah is Begufay? Because we just learned Peah. Everyone holds that Peah has a limit of 60th. It didn't bother me that the Mishnah says Elo Dvarim She'ein Lahem Shir, because the Mishnah is speaking about Midai Raisa. Well, if Midai Raisa, there's no limit to how much you can give tzedakah, so maybe the Mishnah means by Gamach B'Mamayna. That was the question. L'choira, this is the answer. L'choira. That know that the limit of a chaimish is from the Oibishter. We forgot. And then we chapped it on our own, and now Lalamdacha says the Gemara Shekol Davar Shebeis the Nois Nafshim Alav. Soifu Miskayim. Not only do we properly establish something, but we establish it Kamoshen Emel Moshe Sinai. See clearly, Kamoshen Emel Moshe Sinai. It's Shayich that Hashem said something to Moshe and we forgot. The Gemara is going to give 3 examples, and because of the Noisnim Nafshim Olav, you want to call this Mesiras Nefesh, you want to call this Yigia Batoira, because of a certain type of commitment. It's not only the Siyata Deshmaya, of course, which we begin and end with that, but it's a certain type of diligence in giving our soul over to the Eibishter and learning that we're Zoicha, that we get it back. And Va'asya Ka'ai, Omar Udamaramano. Now let's give one example when it says in Parshas Hazinu, that Loi Davar Reik Hu Mikem, and we know that the word Mikem is superfluous, right? That Moshe Rabbeinu could have said, Loi Davar Reiku. If it appears empty, it's not empty. It's filled with content. But why does it say Mikem? So it teaches the Gemara. There's a drasha, the Im Hu Reik, because if you experience a certain emptiness, you know where the emptiness is coming in. Put a comma, Mikem. It's only empty because of you. If we would never have the ability of getting that which we don't yet know, then you can't put it on me. It's not Mikem. I don't know the reason. I never heard the reason. But even if something is Reik, even if it's Reik, if I will have Mesiras Nefesh in my learning, I'm going to wake up early every morning to learn. If that's your Mesiras Nefesh, then you'll be Zoicha to understand things that you never would have understood. It won't be Reik anymore. Lama she'ein atim yigeyim boy. And the hemshach hapasuch is ki hu chayechem. In other words, amos hu chayechem. How can you say the Torah is my life? Let's be honest. Not everyone can say it. When you're Meiser Nefesh for something, then you own it. B'shosha atim yigeyim boy. So when we're yigeyim b'Torah and it becomes chayechem, the pshat of reik is pashat. I don't understand. To me, either it's lacking in moichin or it's lacking in midas. People do mitzvah shmul and I don't feel it. It's empty. So the Gemara is saying that if we will have a certain level of mesiras nefesh, of diligence over Torah, then God is going to fill up that gap. And I'll understand that which was said and forgotten. It's going to come back to me. I'm going to feel something that was felt and it was taken away, and the midas will come back. Why? Because kihu chayech. And now the Gemara says like this, and it's amazing, b'hashgacha pratis, mamish like last week. This week, even though we're beginning with Truma, but we're beginning with Truma. We're learning this in Tavshan Pei Daled, and we're beginning about the building of the Beis Hamikdash. The end of the sugya in the Torah of the building of Mishkan is in Parshas Pekudei, and it's mamish benegeto. Mamish yesterday's chitas. That what do we have? After Vasili Migdash, yesterday's chitas. What was the first thing that God commanded us to build? What's written in the Torah? Moshe Rabbeinu went ahead and he said the furniture, the holy furniture. When Bezalel actually began to put together the Mishkan, what did he put together first? The building itself. I know the building was made out of the Yeriyos, but he put together the building. And when it says in Parshas Pekudei, Bezalel ben Uri ben Hur Mati Yehuda Asa, he did Eis Kol Ashetziva Hashem es Moshe. That's the pasuk. Think about it. Bezalel did that which God commanded Moshe. Let me ask you a question, Shmuley. Who did Bezalel get the commandment from? From Moshe. It should have says that Bezalel did what Moshe told him. It doesn't say that. It says Bezalel did what God told Moshe. You know why it says that? Because what Moshe told Bezalel pushed back. Bezalel told Moshe, you doesn't make sense what you're saying. And Moshe says, yeah, you're right. You were in the shadow of God. God told it to me the way you thought God told it to me. That's the word. The Asher Tziva is Moshe ain't Sivkan. Ella Asher Tziva Hashem is Moshe. Meaning, Afilu Dvarim, even things Shalishon and Pinamai, even things that he didn't hear from his teacher. The Gemara is speaking nicely. It's not that he didn't hear from his teacher. Things that he heard from his teacher in a wrong order. He heard something from Moshe, not the way God told it to him. He because of his Mesiras Nefesh, his Kimay Datoi, his mind was aligned with that which God told Moshe Sinai. As we said, really, there's three examples. I'm just the one example that I mentioned is the example of, was he to make first the Aron Kodesh and then the other Klei HaMikdash and then the Yiriyos, which is how it's written, how Moshe told Betzalel. Betzalel told Moshe, no, when a person builds a house, first you build a house, then you build the furniture. And therefore it has to be on that Seder. And there's a whole Chassidus on that. In other words, do you begin with the Pnimis, do you begin with the Makav HaKodesh, with the Makav HaRachik, however that works. No, example number 2. When it says, and now we're moving on to Yeshua, that Kasher Tziv Hashem as Moshe Avdoi, the way God commanded was connected to Moshe, Kain Tziv Moshe is Yeshua, and V'chein Asa Yeshua. That what? That Lo Yehesir Davar. Now, when it says that he did not deviate, he did not omit, again, it doesn't say that Yeshua did not omit or Yeshua did not change anything that Moshe told him. Not written. What does it say? That even though Moshe commanded Yeshua, but Yeshua did not deviate Hashem as Moshe. Gewaldik, which means Elo Devorim, even things because of Yeshua's not Lo Yamush. So what happened is the third example, Rabbi Yechon b'Shem Rabbanah, and also here Rabbi Chuna b'Shem Rebbe. Now we're going to a pasuk in Malachi where the pasuk says that Toiras Emes Hoisa Befiu, that the teachings of Emes was in his mouth, meaning that Elu Devarim Shaharim V'Rabbi. Then when it says further in the pasuk that the Avlo Linim Sebesfasav, that an Avlo, that a deviation, an injustice won't be found on his lips, meaning, and by the way, I just want you to know, the Marav Fulda says that this pasuk in Malachi is referring to Aaron HaKohen. You know, it's Aaron HaKohen, so we have all three, we have Betzalel and Yeshua and Aaron. It's amazing, they heard one thing from Moshe, and they intuited that God told Moshe something else. They brought it up with Moshe, which says, yeah, you're right. In other words, we are capable, if we are zoicha through our part is the Masa Nafsham on learning Torah, to intuit that which God already said and we didn't receive it. Now the Gemara says like this, another example, that when it says in Mishlei, Ki Hashem yia b'kislecha, that's the question, what the word b'kislecha means. Hashem will be b'kislecha, and v'shamar raglocha miloket, and he will guard your foot from being entrapped. That's the shot of the pasuk. Oh, Taichas Darshins, the Gemara, Darshins, the Gemara, that what? That afilu dvarim sha'at kesil bohen, not the shot of a trap. No, even things that we are like a fool, right? A fool means we lack knowledge, even the things that we don't know. Even when we don't know, God is going to guard us. He'll make sure he'll somehow allow us to know it. But that's only if we have that Mesiras Nefesh. If we're Masran Nafsham on learning Torah. Says the Gemara Rabdoi that what's the entrapment from which God guards our feet from? Min ha hoyra'ah, from giving a halachic ruling. And the biggest responsibility is when someone asks you a halachic question. We're just human beings. Here you say this is kosher. Here you're saying this is mutter. Maybe it's not. So for that we have to have this help of God. That's the pasuk over there. That Rabbanan Amram, another example, that even though Hakel b'dei Shemayim chutz miyira Shemayim, nevertheless, if we are zoicha, God protects us from sinning. Let me tell you a beautiful story that the Rebbe, in the earlier years, when he would see a yeshiva bacher running outside without a coat, in the winter he would tell him, "Where's your coat? It's cold." So there's a story that the Rebbe himself didn't wear a coat. So some chutzpahnik, maybe it was before the Rebbe was a Rebbe, told the Rebbe, "What about you?" So the Rebbe responded, "Mir Hitman, they're watching over me. Someone told me that person later, for a while, went off the derech. And when the Rebbe was telling a person to put on a coat to keep warm, there was a ruchnius that keeping warm. Keeping warm means don't lose your warmth of Yiddishkeit. And the Rebbe was saying, yeah, I'm protected. He was moed. In other words, that tzaddik is protected. Tzaddik at some point doesn't have the nefesh of Bahamas. There's no worry. So there's a certain amount that God, we know that when we daven every morning, don't bring me to an asoyim. What are we basically saying? We're saying, protect me. Protect me from sinning. And yeah, we are, if a person has that diligence, that mesiras nefesh for learning Torah, one of the consequences is God protects that person from sinning. And Ablevi Yamar, the final protection is min hamazikin. If you labor over Torah, you're protected from ruchnius dika negative forces. We don't have to come back. In other words, so Mendel is just pointing out, it's just a fact. He gave everything away. It's too late. So he was told that Rabbi Gamliel, you're only supposed to give a fifth. Shkoyach. You know what happens? But he gave schar mitzvah. He gave a mitzvah of tzedakah. What was the schar mitzvah? Here at Dvar Torah. Very good. And the ani, for sure, everyone was happy. He did a mitzvah. The ani got the money, and then he heard at Dvar Torah. So, and not only did he hear Dvar Torah, maybe Gavaldi. His mesiras nefesh. What was the whole kasha? Rabbi Gamliel never knew about it. He remembered. How did Rabbi Gamliel remember that you don't give more than a fifth? Because there was a mesiras nefesh from his tzedakah act. Says the Gemara, Amar Abba, another type of bikislecha, that in lasata mikischa tzedakah, the word bikislecha means your pocket. If you give tzedakah from your pocket, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mishamercha min hapisim, God is going to protect you from all sorts of taxes. So here you have a city tax and state tax and federal tax and income tax and head tax and sales tax and gas tax. So B'lashon HaGemara, they're just pointing out, there's another tax. So pisim is one type of tributes. Zimoyos was another type of fines. Head taxes, from other types of taxes, all different taxes. The Gemara is pointing out that you'll be protected from all taxes. Mekan some charedim hamaminig as mezeir frum git nishken taxes. I chazal, but that's not so. The Gemara says, "Afadem daf migeben asach tzedakah." Okay, weiter. Says the Gemara, Munbas Hamelach. Guys, you remember? Rashi says in Bava Basra, Munbas Hamelach. His mother was Helena Hamalka, and she married into the nobility of the Chashmonoim. So Munbas Hamelach Amadu Bizbeis Kol Nechasav Lanim. He gave everything away to Anim. So his relatives sent to him. Who are his relatives? The Yorshim. That's a typical, right? Who are you to give it away? You're giving away our money. And they told him, the other Malchi Chashmonoim, every king accumulated more wealth. They added on theirs, and the at bizasto and you're giving it all away, you're squandering it all. So Amar Lohem, so he responded, I'm squandering. I'm the one that's really saving Kol Shchein, all the more so. And look how he said, Avoisai, my forefathers is Gonzu Ba'aretz. I stored away my riches for this world. I'm not giving. I'm storing my riches for the next world. Vanigonasti b'shamayim. Shenemer, as it says, Pasuk in Tehillim Pei, Emes me'eretz titzmach, v'tzedek mishamayim nishkach. So that's the way we're teaching it, that the charity will peer down from the heavens. How will it peer down from the heavens? It's going to peer down from the heavens because you're storing it in the heavens when you give tzedakah. The next statement, my forefathers, they stored their treasures, but they store treasures. They don't produce fruit. Right? The ribis is not the peiros, not the real peiros. That it makes real fruit. A pasuk in Yeshayahu, Imru tzaddik toiv. Tzaddik, it's amazing. Tzaddik, you know what tzaddik means here? Tzaddik means tzedakah. You know why tzedakah is good? Because when you give tzedakah, then you eat the peiros. They amassed riches, but they amassed it in this world. In this world, everything is subject to be stolen. That's the new minig in LA. You have something, it's bagamvit. But I gave tzedakah, so now I stored it in a place that no human being has power to take it away. As it says, to hit them tzadik gimel, tzadik zayin, tzedek or mishpat mechoin kisoy. That the tzedek and the mishpat, you know where they go? They go in front of God's throne. Around in LA, there's Gan Oven. Right near God's throne, by the Malachim, Los Angeles, but by the Kisei HaKoved, there's no Gan Oven anymore. Avoisai konsul mami. They only gathered money. But when I gave tzedakah, I'm gathering the souls of the people that I helped. As it says, that that whoever is going to be acquiring souls, which means giving tzedakah, then chacham, das is the chacham, turning to the amid base, and he's not done yet. The mumbas. Avoisai konsul achedim. Indeed, when my forefathers, they amassed money, for whom did they do it? They died. They did it for others. Vani konasti la'atzmi. I don't know how much that appeased them, because that was the whole taina. Vani konasti la'atzmi, as it says, ulachoti tzedakah. Avoisai konsul ba'olam hazeh. Vani konasti la'olam haba. What does it mean, la'olam haba? So until now, we're speaking about mashamayim. La'olam haba again means in this world after tchiyas hameis. When you give tzedakah, the money is coming back to you then. As it says now, the Taiji Gemara is saying, tzedakah tatzal mimavos. Tzedakah tatzal mimavos might have meant, well, Olam Haba means I'll never die. So I'm going to live forever. The Gemara right away interprets, what do you mean? You give tzedakah, you don't die? Taichi's the Gemara, no. That's the pshat. In other words, whoever will merit to stay on in Olam Haba, that's pshat, that ulacha, beautiful. Tzedakah tatzal mimavos. That's not. It's not a stira to the story of Rabbi Akiva. Remember the whole story that the daughter, when she got married, then she poked a snake in the head with her pin, and she gave tzedakah. That's another. Yeah, tzedakah will protect you from death in this world, but the Gemara in Yerushalmi is speaking about how tzedakah will protect you also from death. And indeed, so here you have another story, Rabbi Mendel, where someone Munbaz Hamelach gave away all his riches, and you know how smart that was, because what happened at the end with Tumal Chashmonoi? Hurdas, the great Rasha, he killed them all. He did the right thing. None of them, all of the heirs were murdered. Forget about they when Mumbas passed away, he was poor. There's no kingdom of the Chashmonaim at all. And he saved all the money by giving tzedakah. Tzedakah, gmilas chasadim, shkula is connected, kol mitzvah yisrael shotayron. Now, by the way, tzedakah here means money tzedakah. Gamach means, as we said, begufay, benafshay, b'mamayna, also giving here gamach in the context when you say tzedakah ugamilos chasadim. Gamach here means a free loan, a halva without, of course, the way a yid has to give an halva. Each one of them are equal to all of the mitzvahs. So what's the difference? Elo tzedakah nehages, tzedakah is only shayir to those who are living. However, gemilos chasadim, not only are they nehages b'chayim, Gemilas Chesed is something, it's a more broader term, but it can also apply even when someone is physically not living. When you bury a mace, you're doing a Gemilas Chesed with the mace. Tzedakah in the context of giving money, giving, not lending, giving. Who needs to receive money? Only Aniyim. Gemilas Chasadim, lending. Leheges, both Laniyim, Ulashirim. HaTzedakah Leheges, only B'mamoynei Shel Adam. Gemilas Chasadim Leheges, Bein B'mamoynei, Bein Beautiful. And indeed, just to know that in the Gemara Bavli, we have the story of Marukva and his wife. Remember, every day he went to shul, he used to put money under the door of money. And he put it under the door because the Gemara, they were speaking about different levels of tzedakah. One of the levels is that the recipient should not know who the giver is. And one day the ani decided, I want to know who's my benefactor. Punta day, Marukva's wife decided to walk with him to the Beis Medrash. And when he put the money under the door, he heard the person inside the house beginning to open up the doorknob. They didn't want to shame him. He would be ashamed when you're in front of Marukva. So what did he and his wife do? They went running away. He went running after them. In the cities, they used to have ovens. The oven was already on for the morning bread. They ran into the oven. That was that story that a person should not be better to throw yourself on a furnace of fire and don't shame another person but oven. We learned that from Tamar. That was that sugya. And what happened when they were in the oven? So the fact that they both lived was a nace. The difference is that Mar Ukva's, the soles of his feet, lahavdol the going, they walk on coals. The whole oven floor was coals. So, and they were standing in there hiding so she should not see them. The wife of Marukva, even the bottom of her feet did not get burned. Marukva got up a blister under his feet. And then he turned to his wife and he asked her, how would you zoicha more than me? So she responded, you give money to the ani. The ani has to take the money, make it into bread. When I give tzedakah, when they come to my door, I give them bread. That's the pshat. That and the Gemara says, that Rabbi Yechanan, Bar Merya b'shem Rabbi Yechanan, Ein anu yoidim, we will not know at first glance which one is more chaviv. Oy tzedakah, oy gemilos chasadim. And you can ask, after we had all this, guys, how much gamach is better? Because there's the other side is giving your time, giving money. For people here who do it, it's a gift that you have. For some people, they'll do anything but money they can't give. So maybe tzedakah, maybe giving money, not a gamach, giving away money. So the Gemara says, when it says Tehillim Kuf Gimel, the Chesed Hashem Oilam Ba'adoilam Al Yireu, Vitzit Kosei Livnei Vanim. Look at the taich. Tzedakah merits you. It brings a merit to your children and to your grandchildren. But Chesed Ma'oilam Ba'adoilam. Hadol Shama Sheknos Chasadim Chaviv Yosem and Tzedakah. Concluding the sugya of Gamach, and now the final item in the first part of the Mishnah. So the Gemara refers back to the Mishnah of the Talmud Torah. Says the Gemara Shalos Rabbi Yeshua, Mahu sheyelamed adam isbeno Yevanis. Are you allowed to teach your son Greek, which was a beautiful language and culture? Let me use this Gemara. I know we're going to speak specifically about Greek in a moment. Should you go to Limudei Chayil or only to Mesiftem? That's the kasha. Amalahem. Where's Rabbi Smith? You're going to see a big smile. So at the Gezag that Yelamdenu Bishah She'ena Lo Yem Elayla. So the Rabbi Shor responded, of course you can learn Greek. The only thing is you have to find their time. You can't teach it by day because you have to learn Torah by day. You can't teach it by night. So if you find the time that not day and not night, then you can learn Yavanis. The whole yeshiva is a twilight over there. It's about because it says so came along the Gemara, and the Gemara had a kasha, and the Gemara is giving the words that Rabbi Smith wants to say. What are you telling me? You can't learn Greek? Again, Greek means lamudei chayil. What are you telling me? People cannot make a living? That's what you want? That's what God wants from people? Are you telling me that a father cannot teach your son a trade because it says anything to say no, you can't. No, this is the mission statement. Can you imagine, guys, when it says at the end of Netzav Bacharta B'chaim, you know what Chazal say? Not choose life and not death. Choose a livelihood. That's the whole mission statement, that you help a yeshiva bacher who's already older, you help him choose the right livelihood. So if you're obligated, and the Mishnah says in Kiddushin that whoever does not teach your son a trade is teaching him how to be a ganav. That's the answer that Jet should give when a father doesn't want to pay tuition. The Mishnah in Kiddushin, Ubacharta B'chaim. So what are you talking about? So the Gemara says, Greek is unique. And by the way, in Jets, there was no Greek classes from this. So Rabbah answered, Barva and Rabbi B'Shem Rabbi Yechanan. No. The Greek is unique because of something that happened. Because of informers. And what's the story that we have? We have this also in the Babli, that there were two brothers, also Aristobulus and Hyrcanus. And they were having a fight one with the other. One became the ruler in Yerushalayim, and one, because he was fighting with his brother, sided with the Romans that were outside Yerushalayim. We don't know which one was which. And the one that was outside told the Romans make a siege. And when they made the siege, there was no money for the carbon tamid, and that's when the Yidden in Yerushalayim gave a bucket of golden coins every day to get 2 shepsalach for the carbon tamid. And the brother that was outside told them, you are making a siege to win over. As long as the Yidden bring karbanos, you'll never be able to win over them. And he was the one that gave them the Eitzah. Oh, 1 second. No. So there was an old man, a Russia in Yerushalayim, that told it to them. He told the guys outside, don't give them Shepsalach, give them a Chazir. And they put a Chazir in, and the Chazir put his claws in the walls, and there was an earthquake. And how did this guy manage to communicate to the Romans? He communicated to the or to the Greeks, because it was Bisman, it was before the Romans. It probably happened whenever it happened. It was by the Romans. It was because he spoke a Greek. And the people in Yerushalayim typically did not speak Greek. No, it's the knowledge of how and Greek wasn't only a language, Greek was also a sign language, it was a whole culture. So Chazal said, don't teach your son Greek, because of the informer that managed to communicate in a way that no one else understood. But that's something unique to Greek. Other than Greek, Adarabah. Doesn't mean you don't eat. Doesn't mean you don't sleep. I don't even think we have that old Greek. I'm thinking out loud, and I'm sure there's a way of applying this. There's a certain type of lemudei chayil. If it's only learned by our enemies, then you don't need it. Okay, beautiful. Says the Gemara weiter. Rababo b'shem Rabbi Yechanan. That this even on Greek, muter lo adam l'lamed es bita Yavanis. You can teach your daughter Yavanis. Why? B'pnei shehu tachshit lo. Women are never informers, says the Pnei Moshe. And Greek was a culture. You know what Greek might be? French. It's like a beautiful language. At least they say it's a beautiful language, and it's a culture. It's a whole thing. The Frenchies. So a woman can speak French. I'm just kidding. A man can speak French also. Now, Shama Shimon Barva, when he heard about that, you can teach your daughter Greek. Amar, he says, begin do boy malafa benase hutale lebe Rabbi Yechanan, because you want to teach your daughter Greek, so you have to give me a Rabbi b'shem Rabbi Yechanan. You're blaming it on Rabbi Yechanan. The Rebbe had gesagt, yeah, because you're hooking it on Rabbi Yechanan. Yova yolai. May I be punished if you ever heard it from Rabbi Yechanan, which is such a big statement. In other words, Shimon Barva obviously was such a chassid that he was so much by Rabbi Yechanan. Can you imagine to be able to tell a person that Rabbi Yechanan never said it? Rabbi Yechanan never said such a thing. So we have a debate whether you can teach your daughter Yavanis or not. But one thing is for sure, that ubacharto b'chaim, that learning how to make a living, like making a living, God forbid, does not go against the obligation of a gisaboy. He was not that he heard everything, that he felt that he knows his Rebbe's, he knows what he knew his Rebbe so much that the Rebbe never would have. You can't see what he went with him 24/7. What would the Rebbe say? Many people today say they know exactly what the Rebbe would have said. You can ask them, because it could be some people, if they live day and light with Toiras Rabbeinu, they make these statements. Beautiful. All right. I think it's mamish beautiful. It's a big statement. Choose life. Choose life means choose a livelihood. And that's his specialty. Just to know, they give him a thank you for my son. You sit down with the bacher and you help the bacher how he'll make a living. And what do you think they do in the recess and jets? They go learn. In between the classes, beautiful. Oh, so now we're moving on to the next part of the mission, right? And like we spoke out in the Mishnah, that the infinity of godliness has to be that it's not limited in place. So even though schar bahai al maleka, there's no reward in this world. But it can be that you do a mitzvah and you don't see good in this world. It's not shaykh. You can't limit it. It's unlimited. Take, the principle, the keren, is beyond this world. Kayem is lo'olam haba. But the Peah Daf has to be ba'olam hazeh. And the Mishnah speaks all about bein adam lachaveros. The first one is kibbud avayim. Well, lahoyer that naseres hadibros kibbud avayim is in the first tablet, which is bein adam lamak. But let's go right, because the Rambam writes that everything in the Mishnah is just examples of ben adam lachaveros. So let's begin about kibbud avayim, and this is very important. So Rababo b'shem Rabbi Yechanan. Let's begin. Sha'alu es Rabbi Eliezer. Ad heichanu kibbud avayim. Is there a limit? By the way, the Mishnah never gave limits for these. The Mishnah never spoke about these. That is Elam. The safe of the Mishnah and Baraisa is about Pedesem and Ken. Whole different thing. And is there a limit to Kibbud Avim? So Amar Lahem, Rabbi Eliezer responded, no, Luchu v'Shalu was Dama ben Asina. So first of all, I want to say like this, that the scholarship answer, Rabbi Eliezer knew, is that if you want to give classes about how much you have to go for Kibbud Avim, the teacher has to be someone that is a role model for that. Don't ask me, because I know of someone that is greater than me. So me telling you the words won't have an effect. Go ask Dama ben Asina. It doesn't mean you have to physically ask Dama ben Asina. It means you have to learn about this person. Who was he? So first of all, Gemara begins that Dama ben Asina. Oh, okay. I want to read the words of the Marafulda. A little bit under the middle. Don't ask me means there is no limit. I can't answer because there is no limit. And it wasn't like it was not necessary. It was a mitzvah. So if someone that's not a mitzvah on this level did it, okay, now let's go back. Dama ben Asina. First of all, the Gemara says it's a nanju. Roish part rechoy. He was a chief in the army. He was an officer in the army. And pamachas choisi imoy mi sa tartoi. One time, his mother was hitting him on his face. And where did she do it? Bifnei kol buli shaloi, in front of his subordinates. Very, very humiliating. And as she's slapping him, the nafal pur de koin shala miyada. It looks like she was slapping him with her sandal. And her sandal fell out of her hand. So what did he do? He bent down to pick up her sandal for her not to have the trouble of doing so. I just want to say that we are medayik from here, David. This is important. That kibbud avim does not mean to subject yourself to parental abuse. This is important. The Gemara doesn't say lahavdil what the goyim wrongly say he turned the other cheek. No. What the Gemara does say is that he picked up her sandal. I would say he walked away from it. You know, don't think subjecting yourself to parental abuse, that's not kibbud avim. But physically, she needed to pick up her sandal. She lost it. She already hit him on his face. She lost her. She gave him a frask in the sandal. He picked up her sandal. Amarab Chizkiya, I want you to know that Goy Ashkelon Nihoya, he was a guy from the city of Ashkelon, and Veroish Partachay Lihoya, so he's not contradicting, he's just making it clear that he was an Andrew. He was telling you where he was from. And the Evan Shiyashav Olav Aviv, the stone that his father would sit on, the chair, Lo Yashav Olav Miyamav, he never sat on it in his entire life. In other words, that's how he was machabed. He was machabed by the mother by doing something for her, by the father by not sitting on his chair. Not only that, when his father died, he didn't even want to sit on the chair later. What did he do? He made from that stone an idol. Obviously, the Gemara is not advocating for him to make an idol, but that's what the whole point of the Marafuld was, that even a goy that was even avodah zarah, this was terrible. You see ad kama that he never sat on it. So we are mitzvah ad shir kibbud avim. We're going to stop over here. A lot more to be continued tomorrow. Beautiful.